So this is the tool. It's a craft tool S931. They have different sizes and stuff, but this is the one that probably good for 2mm. And then there's this other one. I don't know what tool number this one would be. This is a different company who makes this. His name's Barry King. This one's $55, which you can get the same one from Tandy Leather Factory. That's going to be the same as this one, or the same as this one, but cheaper. You know, have like 5 dots. Though if you don't want to, you can just get the one that has a single one. And when you hammer this into the leather, you don't have to hammer so hard. Just enough to kind of leave it an impression. Like that. And then here, I'll do a second row too so you can see how close I get it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't have to get it super close or anything like that. Just about that's probably pretty good. That's usually kind of what I do. Most leather, if it's not going to take the stamp, you can always just wet it with leather, because I know leather work, you do have to wet stuff. This, since it's being like such a small tool, I don't have to wet it and everything. Okay, now all I do is just kind of cut close to it. And actually, cutting this with scissors, you don't need any special kind of scissors. Any normal scissors will cut it. As you just cut along, if you stamped it somewhat deep enough, it'll just kind of guide along and cut it for you, to where you don't have to be super careful, and it just kind of cuts it like perfectly out alongside there without having to cut the little, I guess what we'd say what they would be as heads, like in half. And then what's left is still part here. That's usually what you end up with. It's just that. This is just a small example of ones that I did. But I have some bigger ones in the bag for the 2mm scale. So like these ones, you can do them all different kinds of lengths and stuff. I just have them in 2 rows because I do a lot of American Civil War stuff. So that's kind of generally what only reason why they're having in there. I do have these ones that I did do. Not specifically for a game or anything, just wanted to see what they look like. They're all kind of bunched up. It's just some medieval minis. How I did the shields is I got even thinner leather, and I have like a little leather small hole punch. I'm able just to punch these out of leather completely all the way through and stuff. And then this is the other one kind of thing. I just use a leather mallet. You don't have to use a leather mallet. You can honestly just, if you have a rubber mallet, that would be good. If you don't, an ordinary hammer would work on, pounding these in. You'll just have to deal with the noise. I don't think it's going to create sparks or anything like that. But this one specifically, I think I got it for like $10 on Amazon years ago. You don't have to, but if you wanted to get into it, they have like a couple different ones. They have this one, and then they have one that's flat. This is just made out like a nylon plastic, and then just with a wood handle. Tandy leather, they have them too, but I don't know how much more they are, or if they're cheaper or more. So you'll just have to kind of do some looking around. But Tandy does have the leather that you can buy, and they'll have it in different ounces, and they also have it in like 5-6 ounce, 4 or 5 ounce, which is just the weight of the leather, but they tell you the thickness of it too, so that will help as well if you're wanting to go like 2mm or 1mm, or just kind of whatever. I know this is different. This isn't towards the minis, but these are like little buildings I made out of leather too. Out of thicker leather. This is actually made out of a leather called harness, and I just kind of glued them up in layers and stuff. And then how I got the roof, you have to get like this French skiver, and it's got to be pretty sharp to cut this leather because this stuff's pretty tough. I mean, it cuts pretty easily if the knife's sharpened, but I just kind of cut stuff out, kind of give it chimneys and did different kinds, little cabins, and did one that kind of looks like a church and everything. I don't have any ones that have details on them or anything because I haven't decided what I was going to do or how I was going to paint them. This is just me dyeing them all a same color just for like a base coat until I figure out what I was going to do. If I wasn't sure if I was going to cut out like little shingles or something and do all that work for little tiny roofs, I don't know. But you can kind of see in the scale size. So this would just be, I don't know, some kind of building. And then this is ACW minis. You just have 2 different regiments, so you can kind of get an idea of the size scale for all that stuff. And this is the 1mm stuff. Let me see if I can get the scale. You have the 2mm, and the 1mm is just a little bit smaller. It's probably more like 1.2 or, you know, something like that. It's not exactly 1mm, but it's pretty close. If I actually went 1mm and stamped it, I don't even know if the leather would take the leather would probably take the impression, but I was afraid that if I stamped it too hard, it might just go all the way through and stuff. But yeah, these are kind of just more stuff. Yeah, if you guys are watching from Reddit, these are the ones that I posted on there, and some of the other stuff that I showed previous to. And this is just out of, yeah, the 1mm leather, and the other stuff's I had to skive it down and everything. I have like a skiver that just cuts it, like literally splices it in half to kind of whatever, like the thickness you want and stuff. But you can order already 2mm or 1mm, just whatever weight ounce leather that you wanted. And then there's this tool. This is the one I was talking about. This is a Berry King, like I said before. You don't have to get this one. Of course, this one's expensive. You can get the one that, I don't know what number it is. I can look it up and I can just put it in the description what it is. And they'll have ones that will be 5, but the little dots will be kind of different sizes. I think these are kind of close. I know the multiple ones are a little bit smaller. That's why it was good for using 1mm. I do have a smaller one of this one, but it was kind of too small that I just didn't like the way it looked. But I mean, you can always get it and test it, I guess, since these are, I think these are on like less than $10 a piece. So yeah. So there's that. And yeah, if you were wanting to make a whole bunch of these, probably getting this would be good. But also if you wanted to, here, I'll show you an example. Like if you wanted to put like an officer or something like that behind it. I mean, these are 2 different dot sizes, of course. But if you had dots of the same size, you can put like 2 officers, and then you can just cut it behind it and stuff, cut around it. And probably get in there with like an X-Acto, but I don't know. We'll just cut it out and see what it looks like. So. Might be a little difficult cutting around this, but I mean, it didn't do too bad of a job. I think if I had some sharper scissors, probably clean it up a little bit. Or you can just go in with an X-Acto, especially if you have a sharp one. It'll cut through this stuff pretty easy. And if you ever have a hard time cutting it after you stamped it, you can always wet the leather too, and it will soften it as well, and it'll actually make cutting the leather a lot smoother. Another thing too is that these could be like not flimsy, but sometimes these little dots can come off. It depends on how like how deep you stamp them to. So usually before I paint them, I'll just run like a bead of super glue over top of it and let it absorb into the leather, and it hardens it. So and then I'll just base coat it with spray paint. And then if you're gluing them on a base, I mean normal just white PVA glue or school glue or whatever you want, or super glue. Sometimes the super glue doesn't work too well. It usually only works well if it's working from like leather to plastic. Leather to wood, it mostly, since wood and leather are both porous, it just, the super glue would just kind of absorb, you know, either in the wood or the leather or both, and then they just won't stick too well. You know, those take, you have to put more super glue. So if you just want to avoid that, just like a small bead of white glue, and that's pretty much it. And then I just put super glue over top of it just to harden it, and then just let that dry, and then yeah, then just go to base coating with whatever you want to use. Spray paint, acrylic paint, it doesn't matter. The leather will take acrylic paint just fine, and that's actually what I paint all the minis with. The only thing I do is just, honestly, I just base coat them. I just base coat them with brown spray paint. That's what this is and stuff. And then yeah, and then everything else is just acrylic paint. And then after that, then you just pretty much seal it up with either Mod Podge or any matte, you know, varnish or whatever. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, just let me know what you have, you know, something that I didn't explain exactly how you wanted it to be heard or whatever. Or yeah, unless you want, you know, if there's other tools you want, or yeah, I mean, I'll definitely put the links in the description for this one, so you can find this one. So it's the right size for 2mm. I don't know what the one would be. It'd just probably be the next smaller one after this one, and then I'll find the one for this one, but not the Berry King one, the cheaper one. And it'll work just the same, because this one here is a craft tool, and that's what I use for the 2mm dots. I have this one available, so that's why I just started doing the 1mm stuff today.